Hi, my name's Maddie. This is the Innocence topic, and today, and for the rest of the series, we're going to be talking about the Innocence Project, and more specifically for today, its relation to the trial of OJ Simpson.
It was around midnight on June 13th of 1994 that a white Akita dog was found in the neighborhood of Brentwood, Los Angeles, with bloody paws by an unnamed couple, who were then led to the house and subsequent crime scene of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. That was only the beginning of the most expensive and televised trial in American history. The trial against O.J. Simpson spread infamy, criticism, and notoriety to all those connected. The lead prosecutor, Marcia Clark, who was the face of the state, thus the face of all of the mistakes that the state made. Once the trial concluded, she quit her job and has never practiced law again. On the other hand, OJ's dream team is still known to this day. A number of elite lawyers were involved, most notably Johnny Cochran, aka if it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
There was also Robert Shapiro, Robert Kardashian, F. Lee Bailey. In that dream team, though, there was a relatively unknown lawyer named Barry Scheck, who was familiar with DNA evidence that was just surfacing and making breakthroughs. He used that knowledge and career expertise to attack the prosecution and the police's mishandling of evidence. To really understand the significance of this, we're going to have to go back about 15 years to when Peter Neufield and Barry Scheck worked together at a private practice. They were longtime colleagues from the Bronx Legal Aid Society who worked as public defenders before moving to said private practice. Being known to the Bronx Legal Aid Society was 1987 when they were asked to appeal for Marion Coakley. Born in 1955 in Beaufort, South Carolina, Coakley moved to New York in 1979 and made a living as a manual laborer. He lived quietly for about 5 years before he was arrested for the brutal rape of Irma Lopez, which is only an alias given to the victim to protect her identity. Coakley went through at least one public defender before the official defense attorney, Donald Dubele, was assigned to his case, and it was pretty late in the game because of that, and having just come off of a 3-week trial, Mr. Dubele repeatedly requested extensions, but the judge denied all of them. When the trial came, Coakley had numerous eyewitnesses, stating that Coakley was at his sister's house on the night of the crime. During the cross-examination of a key alibi witness, they were made to seem uncertain by the prosecutors. The Legal Aid Society was sure that Marion Coakley was innocent, but also knew that the only grounds for appeal was ineffective assistance of counsel, which meant that they probably shouldn't be the ones to appeal. That's when Barry Scheck and Peter Neufield were brought onto the case. Since it was only 1987, they didn't have access to the up-and-coming DNA technology. Instead, they used the rape kit that was collected the night of the assault to find the blood type of the attacker, which absolutely ruled out Coakley as the perpetrator of the crime. And now the case of Marion Coakley and his eventual release is known as the first case and the first man exonerated by the Innocence Project. And it was this case that cemented DNA technology as a key piece of evidence that could be used to exonerate hundreds of innocent people from prison. At least to Scheck and Neufield, because it was 1992 when they officially created the Innocence Project.
The Innocence Project Law Clinic was held at the Benjamin N. Cardozo School of Law, which had previously worked with the U.S. Department of Justice and U.S. Senate to determine that in over 70% of wrongful convictions there was incorrect identification by a witness.
And this was important because it was a big factor looked at by the individuals working at the Innocence Project who put through the thousands of application requests for help. They focus exclusively on appeals that can be made with the use of DNA evidence, but they are part of a broader organization called the Innocence Network that does work on cases that don't involve DNA evidence. The organization focuses on advocacy related to wrongful convictions. Some even credit the Innocence Project for fueling Americans' opposition to the death penalty, as stated in 2011 when Illinois officially ended their death penalty with a moratorium. But even things that seem as positive as that come with criticism. In 2009, Chief Justice Roberts wrote in a post-conviction challenge that it poses questions to our criminal justice system and our traditional notion of finality, better left to the elected officials than federal judges, which questions whether the appellate court should accept DNA as evidence of innocence. In the same opinion, another justice wrote that forensic science was a serious deficiency. Chief Justice Roberts also was quoted saying that the post-conviction DNA results risk unnecessarily overthrowing our established system of criminal justice. In response, a law professor, Kevin John Heller, wrote that it might lead to a reasonably accurate one. There's a few connections to be made between the Innocence Project and the relation that the co-founder has with the OJ Simpson trial. Perhaps we may consider that without the involvement from Scheck, the organization may have had a harder initial launch. But it's a program aimed towards and mainly used by individuals of low socioeconomic class who have exhausted all available legal options with no justice. So I think with or without that connection, the organization would eventually become successful. In an interview just a few years ago, Barry Scheck was asked whether or not he credits the success of the Innocence Project with his involvement, and he did say that he himself believed that it would become a very big program. But he did say that celebrity status never hurt. Throughout this research, I did find myself asking myself one question over and over again, which was, why did a man who shifted his entire career focus to help individuals who have near no hope in the American judicial system receive justice, also participate in what is considered one of the largest and most obvious injustices in the country? I found my question being answered in that same interview. The question of OJ's guilt or innocence was never really on Barry Scheck's mind. What was on his mind was the fact that the DNA evidence, in his opinion, was mishandled, and there was negligence on the prosecutorial side. The fact is that Peter Neufield and Barry Scheck are not interested in the implications of any evidence, and especially not DNA evidence. These are individuals passionate for law, helping people navigate the system, and finding and using indisputable evidence. The fact of DNA proved Marion Coakley's innocence beyond a shadow of a doubt. The fact of DNA collection and mishandling of evidence showed the jury that it could not be used conclusively to prove or disprove OJ's guilt.